attention to
Okay,
detail.
we'll call a meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the regular city council meeting from June 9, 2025. Start with a roll call, please.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynor,
Yes.
Pursader,
Here.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen. Here.
Next, we move to item 3. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to public comment. Leanne, do you want to come up first?
Good evening. Leanne Harrison, 514 Fifth Avenue Southwest, President of the Buchanan County Historic Society. We'd just like to invite all of you and the general public to some of our events this summer. Flag Day, which is this Saturday, the Lee Mansion will be open special hours from 1 until 2. And so we hope that you can come by and see Captain Lee's house, and he was the first mayor of Independence. On July 6th, the Lions Club and the Historic Society go together for their annual pancake breakfast at the Mill, and it's from 8 until 12 that day, and it coincides with the ecumenical church services in the park. On August 16th is the annual Underground. Everybody always talks about, they don't know when it is, so it's always the third Saturday of August, always. And so we hope everybody,
How many you can talk about this year, Leanne?
I think there will be 8, I believe.
What time, from what time on that?
The Underground is from 10 until 2.
Ended two.
And the tickets are available at the Mill in the morning only, because if you don't have your ticket by noon, you're not going to get through them all. So,
Just that day?
yes.
Okay.
That day only. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Jason Kenninger, is that how I pronounce it?
It's Kenninger.
Kender, I'm sorry.
I'm Jason Kenninger. I live at 301 7th Avenue Southeast. I've been here for about 6 years of my life. This is the second time that I've been served with a first notice because I feel like I'm being targeted by the city. This is for a repurposed toilet in the front yard as a flower pot that has been in the front yard for a year. Now I'm getting served on it. So I called and talked with Mr. Schmidt about it, actually came into his office about it. He informed me that the reason why that needed to be removed was because in case a car hit that object, it could damage it. I've lived there for 6 years. There's never been an accident on that corner. But if your guys' reasoning for making me remove that is because it could damage a car, maybe you need to send your inspectors out to drive around the city, because I did. I only hit one part of the city. But I got pictures of people that did the same thing that I did, except they used other objects. My favorite one is this one right here. That is a huge boulder sitting on the edge of the property, on the corner that you guys own, but I'm supposed to maintain. This is a huge boulder. This is just one part of the city that I looked at. Just one part of it. Another one. You guys, the Postal Service is making us put, if you buy a new home or if you move into a home, you got to put a mailbox out at the yard, at the edge of your yard, in the city's property where you own, so they can deliver the mail. Covered with bricks all the way around it. So you guys are sending me a notice to get rid of my toilet that a lot of people, that when they walk by our house, comment on, and it is a flower pot in a huge area. to get rid of the toilet. Something that's been there for a year. Something that's been in my yard since I moved there. It came with me from my house in Waterloo. So, what are you guys gonna do about this notice? That's what I wanna know. Because I'm leaving the toilet there. And if you are going to take me to court, I want all these people, all of these different areas where it could be damaged by a car if it jumped the curb, all of these. And these pictures are yours. I printed these pictures off for you guys to see. All of these. This is just down the block from me. This one right here. All of this. That could damage a car. That could damage a car. This right here, that's at one of the city parks on the west side. The funny thing is if you guys go to the courthouse and you look to the east of the courthouse where the water tower is, there's one of those sitting on the corner of that as well, and that's a city park. But you want me to remove a toilet? That can damage. This is a close-up of that mailbox sitting out on the city property that us as homeowners are supposed to take care of, wrapped in brick. So are you gonna make them remove that? Or are you just gonna make me remove my toilet? A toilet that has been sitting out there since last year, and a toilet that I recently went out and bought copper and plumbed to water the flowers that were in it. And it looks nice. So, are you guys going to let me continue to have my toilet in the yard? Or are you going to send your inspectors out to drive every single block of this town and find other people that are doing things like I did to make it nicer? To make it nicer. Or are you gonna drive around and you're gonna give every one of them a summons to get rid of it? Because I don't know, I'm not a wealthy man by any means, but I'm sure it's gonna take a pretty heavy skid loader or piece of equipment to remove the boulder that's in the person's yard on the west side of town.
Okay. Unfortunately, we can't respond to you because this is public comment. Iowa law, in terms of, it has to be an agended item before we can talk about it. But what I will tell you is that I became aware of this earlier today, and we will be scheduling a meeting with you as soon as we can get it scheduled. So we're not ignoring you. I just can't respond to you right now. Okay?
That's all I ask for. I don't want this to go any further.
Do not.
No, I just wanted to see the pictures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these are your copies, and I have more. But that, like I said, that's just the southwest side. It's not a very good picture. I should have brought one.
You're not a photographer.
You're right.
Just kidding.
I'm not even. But
This is not.
And you said 301 7th Avenue?
Yeah.
That's adjacent?
yeah, and if you look right here, you can't really see, but if you drive by,
Can't make
there's
out where that's
upper
at.
plumbing that goes up this way into a shower head that sprays. We planted Easter lilies or tulips, something in there, and that's instead of carrying water all the way out there, and it looks
I
nice.
think this
I mean,
goes with that. This is a
I
block.
don't understand why I'm getting
It's getting used
some.
to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming forward. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, next we move to the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following. The minutes from the May 27, 2025 regular meeting and the Miller 4th of July block party to be held July 4, 2025. Do I have that motion?
Second.
Who made the motion? You got it?
Kathy. and
Okay,
Matt.
all in favor?
I'd like to ask about the block stuff that we're going to do.
Unfortunately, yeah, we have to do that well, I guess we haven't voted yet.
We haven't voted yet. If the individuals who made the motion would like to rescind their motion and make a motion to pull that off for discussion, then you can do that.
I didn't hear what Deb said. I'd like to hear about the block party.
See, when we have a consent agenda item, technically, the consent agenda, there's no discussion. So if it's your motion, Catherine, and then your second, sorry, who's second?
Matt,
If you want to remove those, we can remove it from the consent agenda, and we can add it to the calendar, and then we can then talk about it during that time
and
period.
you can have discussion about it.
Okay, did you get that withdrawn then?
So we wouldn't vote on it tonight? It would-
Yeah, we'll vote on it
We
tonight.
vote on it tonight, it just, we can't, there cannot
Just
be any
delay it,
discussion
we
on
discuss
it.
it.
We have to remove it from consent agenda and put it to other business.
Right. So the motion would be to approve the consent agenda, subject to moving that item to the other business for further discussion.
It's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So then, so this is just all in favor for the minutes of May 27th, 2025. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to the financials. I need a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we move to the bank reconciliation. That's for information only. Does anybody have any questions with regard to that? Hearing none, we move on to item 8, which is revenues and expenses to date. Again, this is information only. Anybody have any questions with regard to that?
Could I ask a question? There couldn't have been any discussion on that block party at all?
No, we'll get to it.
No,
Oh, we will.
not in consent
It'll be on the other
agenda.
business
Okay.
tonight. It'll just move to the bottom of the agenda under other business tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, next we move to item number 9. I need a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance that amends the provisions pertaining to Code Section 41.14, which is fireworks.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, as all of you are probably aware, the state legislature and governor have signed a new law into effect that is different than the way that our ordinances are in the city. So what this does is it makes us in conformity with what the state is requiring us to do.
So there'll be no permits for fireworks anymore, is that?
So not for consumer grade stuff. For professional grade things, you can still permit those. And we still would do that. Don't we do that for the Celebrate Indy
Yeah.
fireworks one? Yeah,
Yeah.
so we would do that for professional grade fireworks shows like that, but consumer grade fireworks are now exempt from those requirements.
So anybody in their yard can set fireworks off these hours and days?
Correct.
I had 4 veterans that have contacted me in the last 2 weeks regarding this one, and if there's any way we can forestall it, because one of them,
There isn't. It's been passed by the state legislature. and signed
State
by the
overrules
governor.
city.
It was effective sometime in May, I think, was when the governor signed it.
Probably the only reason that you could not have it would be if the fire department would say drought.
There's not even exemptions for that.
You're kidding me.
Nope.
Nope.
So, any further discussion with regard to the ordinance itself?
And in that ordinance, anything that is sold in the retail field can be set off.
It pretty clearly
Basically.
defines in there the list of things that can be sold, but it's basically first-class consumer fireworks. Anything that's
Right.
categorized as such can be sold and discharged during those days and times.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, this would be a roll call vote.
Hannah,
Guess we're gonna vote yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
yes.
Brusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
No.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-1. Now the question is, does anybody want to suspend the statutory rule requiring that the ordinance, for an ordinance to be considered, must be voted on at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it's finally passed?
I would make that motion since it's mandated by the state.
I would second it.
Okay, so again, this is a roll call vote. I need 6 out of 7 votes to pass.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Brusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
No.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah.
No.
So that would be,
Doesn't pass.
It fails.
okay.
So it'll be back on the 23rd agenda for the second reading then.
Okay, then let's move to move to resolutions. Item number 10. I need a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution to replace and repeal Resolution 2023-91, setting solid waste collection fees and environmental impact fee rates in an amount of administrative fee of 25 cents, which would be $18.17 per month.
So moved.
Yep, second.
Okay, so we have choices on this. I used the 25 cents. The purpose of this is in addition to what what's done by waste management, not the waste disposal people. We've got staff that's involved in things constantly that is taking up their time and their administrative time, and this is the only way that we can recoup any of that money at all for the time that the staff is spending on it. So that's the reason why. We have choices going from 10 cents administrative fee, which would be $18.02, 15 cents, 20 cents, and then the 25 cents, which is $18.17. So I crafted the motion with respect to the higher end of the $18.17 per month. But if anybody wants, if this doesn't pass, I can always change it to another amount, and we can redo it at that amount, unless there's other discussion and people have a consensus that they want to do something differently right now.
Well, if we wrote the quarter in, then next year, are we going to even want more?
I don't know that we've had an administrative fee up until this point.
Yeah, my understanding is that we,
So I'm not inclined to try to recoup every dollar that we spend, that staff spends, but when you have property taxes being collected, paying for salaries, and those people are working on something that is paid for with an actual user fee, I'd rather incur user fees to pay for that staff time.
Makes sense.
I don't have a lot of intentions of ever increasing more than 25 cents. I mean, I feel like that's sufficient.
Does our staff spend quite a bit of time with the garbage stuff here versus or does the light plant do quite a bit of that?
The light plant does some of it, but remember that we also pay for administration of building and those things. We don't collect anything for that purpose right now either.
Well, and I've seen them down there at the tree dump.
Yeah.
Apparently, we need the cameras zoomed in more, because I've seen two big things of garbage down there last month.
Susie, do you have any comment with respect to how often they take phone calls and deal with trash items?
I mean, we get quite a few calls when it comes to, well, is Waste Management coming? Have you guys been notified? I'm like, we didn't get an email? Maybe they're just running behind. It depends on Waste Management office staff as to sending us a notice. But I mean, we get calls, it fluctuates. Like, who do I call? Something's broke on my bin, I need a new one. I didn't get picked up.
Okay, thanks.
any further discussion on this?
I personally feel the 25 cents is not out of line at all, because another thing you have to remember is we do provide a tree dump at no charge.
There's charge.
No, there's
Well, there's
that.
the environmental impact fee. is what it is for that.
environmental impact fee, my mistake, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But I think it's adequate.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, this will be a roll call vote then.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
And this is a 25-cent one we're voting on.
25 cents.
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard.
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 11, which is a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the resolution that awards the general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2025, to Robert Baird, B-A-I-R-D, as recommended by the bid tabulations prepared by Spear Financial. First, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Hello there, everyone. I'm Maggie Berger with Spear Financial. We did take bids this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, on $2,480,000 of general obligation corporate purpose bonds. As you've seen in the past, we've provided you a letter rating. We'll kind of walk through all of that. We are recommending that you would award to Robert W. Baird of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They are going to pay you a very small premium. That premium is about $16,985. With that, we're getting an original interest rate, and then we have a revised. We had to do a little fluctuation. The timing of the bond sale had you paying a little more in interest, so we had to align that with the pre-levy that you've set in your property taxes. So we had to adjust $10,000 of principal. You're still getting it, we just had to adjust it into the first maturity and out of the next two maturities at $10,000. So that's why we have a revised, because that is what the revised true interest cost is. Those three bids were from Robert Baird, Bernardi Securities, and Northland Securities. These are pretty common bidders that we're seeing in today's market. We'll show you, Robert Baird had a pretty large syndicate, but as in reference, your 2023 bond issue, which was the last general obligation bond that the city did, was a 3.37% interest rate. We know that the bond market has moved about 1 to 1.5% since that 2023 timeframe. It was a little higher in 24, so we're happy to report today that, again, we're back. Even though we're about 50 basis points higher, we think it could be 1% higher, so we're very happy that it's only 0.5% higher. As part of this action of bond sale, we did go out to Moody's rating and rating service, and the city was reaffirmed at their A2 rating. So I remind you, there's the AAA, which is the highest rating. Then there's the AA range, which is a AA1, AA2, AA3. Then we have the single A category, which is where the city falls, right in the middle of that single A category. They talk in here about your long-term liability ratio being very moderate, that you anticipate growth, but you may have some future capital needs, because we all know that sometimes it costs some money as you're growing to get some of those projects done, but it seems to be manageable in their outlook. We talk about factors that could lead to a downgrade, always a material decline in cash balance. So we've said it many times over. Moody's and other rating agencies want to make sure that you have a lot of cash on hand. They want to make sure that you can operate your government if the property taxes were not to come in, if they were delayed. And really that is probably natural disaster related, that something would happen and the county would not send out the property tax bills in the normal time frame that they do, and maybe they're delayed getting here a month or a month and a half, and so they just want to make sure that there's enough money there that things will operate normally until you're reimbursed with that.
What would it take for us to move up to the AA?
For you to move up to the AA, so back here, you are scorecarding out in a AA category.
That's it.
I don't think that it would be just the financial disclosure part of it, but you're getting a 2-notch reduction for financial disclosure. And that just means that you are doing a cash basis, you're doing audits. Most cities in Iowa that are under 25,000 are doing cash basis. Moody's wants you to do accrual basis accounting. That would be a complete changeover to your accounting system, and again, it would be difficult. It would be strenuous. Most city clerks probably would leave their positions in that type of a situation, but they're saying it's a 2-notch. Now, to be very honest, this is the first 6 months that we're hearing of this, so we've got a phone call with Moody's to talk about this whole idea of cash and why 2 notches. But I'm going to say this. In the past, looking back, you have not scorecarded out a AA3. So internally, we think they're scorecarding you higher and then making that deduction and keeping your rating right where it is. Last year, you scorecarded out at an A, or 2 years ago, you scorecarded out at an A1, which is just 1 notch higher. So again, not paying attention to that cash balance or that cash reporting. I don't think, Moody's doesn't hand out ratings easily. They don't hand out upgrades easily. So in my opinion, if you made the decision today to go into a modified accrual, I don't think you're going to see an upgrade, in my opinion, unfortunately.
Well, the cost-benefit analysis for cities under 10,000 would not be.
It would not. You're absolutely correct. They are putting you on a global scale, and they're saying globally, across the U.S., more people are using modified accrual or accrual accounting. But again, Iowa's a little different in the fact that we have some very small communities that are needing dollars and are needing ratings to be able to get good interest rates. Yeah. But they're kind of holding that against us. And so we're going to have that discussion with them. We've had discussions with them in the past about just even size. One time they told us they wouldn't rate anything under $1 billion. And I'm like, well, most of Iowa's under $1 billion of valuation. So we had a nice discussion and got some further information from them. So we'll be having that discussion. Because again, this was floated about 6 months ago, and then all of a sudden it started showing up. But if we look back at scorecards, there's no scorecard change to really what you had prior. It's like they're bumping up your scorecard to take it back away from you without moving your rating. So that's what we want to understand a little bit more about. And that we have to have a discussion with their entire team that writes all of their policies and their scorecarding process. Overall, everything else looks very good. The ESG, which is kind of colorful pages back there, that's environmental, social, and governance. You are scoring out at a CIS 2, which is a very low or a positive score, meaning that, environmental, obviously you sit on a river, there could be flooding. So that's the environmental part of it, is that, you have that risk. But between social and governance, they're saying that you are very well maintained, and they always talk about how you have a robust institutional framework, and that really in Iowa is something that goes a long ways, because in Iowa, unlike some, you are able to set your own budgets. We have what's called self-supporting tax. Although there are things that the state level can do and grants and this and that, you are ultimately in control of that budget. Now, they've started to restrict some of those dollars that you can bring in, but ultimately you're still the ones passing those property tax levies and self-supporting yourself that way. So they've always looked at it that way. We also just show that the issuance on this page, which is our bid tabulation, it's got Spears logo at the top of it. You, although score out at an A2 at Moody's, the underwriter did purchase insurance today. That is at their cost. It was a $16,000 policy, and they paid for that. What that does is that got them an S&P Global rating of a AA stable rating. So that bumps you into the AA category for their purposes of reselling the bonds, which maybe puts it in the hands of investors that need AA paper in their hands. So again, not a cost of that comes from you. That is a cost that comes directly from the underwriter. We have seen lots of insurance sold over the last 6 to 7 weeks. Lots of insurance. And really the insurance it's insurance that you're going to pay your debt service. It's a very interesting concept to me, because again, in Iowa, you have to pay your debt service. A judge will step in and likely tell you, you have to levy the debt service. You have valuation, you have to levy the debt service. Cities in Iowa cannot declare bankruptcy like in other states, but it is what takes that rating from that single A category to the AA, and investors are really saying that's a positive. So there will be this Assured Guarantee is the one who offered the insurance. S&P had you, it'll be a AA rating. Your underlying rating, though, is the A2. So you can see where we have the revised par down there. Again, it was moving 10,000 up, moving 5,000 out of each of the other 2 coupons, and that's just to match what we had decided in January. So a few months ago would be your pre-levy resolution. And then the final page of our packet is your final debt service schedule. That does represent the 4% interest rates all the way down. That is the debt service. We were planning on it being 4% interest rates all the way down, so that was great to see today. And there is a call feature after June 1st of 2031. That just means that if at that time there's money ahead, you could pay these bonds off at that time or any time after. You could always refinance if interest rates were lower at that time or any time after. Or if interest rates are the same or similar, you're just going to continue to pay on the bonds until they mature. So
What would the penalty be after 5 years?
there is no option after 5 years. It's not a penalty option. There's just no option.
No option.
These bonds are sold as investments. If we put a 5-year call in here, if we had set it up to a 5-year call, you would see probably 6 and 7% interest rates in the first 2 years. The investors want to know that they're going to hold this investment for a certain amount of time. Otherwise, they want to make more money up front. So we're very careful when we look at that as to how many years the bond is going to be outstanding, and then we sort of have this number of years that we really need to put the call to make it worth your while without being penalized for that. So, yeah. But at that point in time, at that 2031, there is no penalty, there's no prepayment charges. You would just owe principal. Typically, those principals are called in on a scheduled date that you make your interest payment, so June or December 1. They can be called in at any time with 30 days notice and action by the council, but it's typically around that June or that December payment date. So, any other questions?
Is this all public knowledge?
Yeah.
And we did send an electronic copy, but because the bond sale happened today, it's not probably in your packet.
I like that better.
Right, that's the reason, that's exactly the reason it's not in the packet, is because the timing of things just didn't work out for it to be in there.
I like it better.
Had we received the AA as he purchased with insurance, how much difference in interest would there have been?
I want to be very honest with you. I don't think a lot. We sold a AA issue last week, and it was 4% interest rates all the way down. Their premium was $24,000. Your premium was $16,000. So it very well, the premium that they're paying you on the bonds was, only $16,985. That city got about $24,000. So to be very honest, from an interest rate perspective on what you will pay in interest, we're not seeing any difference right now. We are seeing 4% if you're in the 10 to 12 to 15-year range. You go out to the 20 years, and we're starting to see some 4.25s near the end, maybe even a 4.175 near the end, but pretty much we're in that 4% interest rate market right now. Have been for a few months. We anticipate, economists in the bond market are telling us that we're probably here at least through September or October, and we'll wait and see what the Fed does.
October, like I said, maybe.
We'll see.
Other questions for Maggie? Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
Anything else from any of you? Okay, hearing none, this would be a roll call vote then.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Crusader.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we move to item number 12.
You
Thank you.
also.
I need a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a resolution that sets a public hearing for July 14, 2025 at 5:30 PM on the designation of the July 2025 urban renewal area and on the urban renewal plan and project. This is the Indy storage that we've talked about in the past. So first, I need the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? We're just setting a hearing there. Anybody's discussion on that?
How many buildings are there? 2 or 3, or? I see 2 going up.
Total build-out, I want to say, is 5, with then the 6th one being a retail piece. But I think the first 2 along the east side of the property is the primary goal right now. Get those up and get those operational, and then they'll continue building as they are able to rent and fill.
Anything else? Okay, this will be a roll call vote then.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
It passes 7-0. Next, we move to other business. This is where we've moved the item from the consent agenda. So I need a motion to approve the Miller 4th of July block party to be held July 4, 2025.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion on that? Deb, did you have something?
Yeah, do they have to have insurance for that?
So since I've been here, as I had a discussion about this with Councilmember Moore earlier, this is only the second time we've had somebody say they want to do a block party. When we had the first one, I think it was
Right.
roughly around your neighborhood.
Right in front of my house.
I just knew it was your neighborhood.
Right.
We didn't, but I know.
Did we approve that one?
Yeah, that one got approved.
We had it 3 years in a row.
We're working, it's the goal of City Manager Schmitz with the PD, and I'm not sure which other departments, to actually figure out something to do for block parties.
We've looked at some example ordinances from some other cities and stuff, because this is a request that's come up a couple times. The times that it's come up since I've been here, we've told them you can do a special event permit, and some have elected to do that, and some have not. But we'd like to look at potentially putting another chapter, I think, is the best way to probably do it in the code that addresses these types of situations. The other thing is it formalizes street closures, because that would be a part of the discussion also, because we really don't have a formalized process for how those operate either.
So property owners don't have to agree to it, they can just do it?
That would all be part of the discussion that we would have when we start going through that.
But I mean, like for this
process.
case,
For this case, it's a special event permit, so I don't know that there's been any notification of surrounding property owners.
I think that because we call it a block party, it makes it sound bigger than what it is. Basically, what it is
4 properties.
yeah, they're on both sides.
but it landlocks one house where if you need an ambulance or a fire truck, or even just to get to their driveway, that's the only way you can get there. And so you don't see property owners saying, we've seen things with property owners signing it, saying they're okay with it. Like fences or whatever, things.
For fences and home occupation permits, I mean, that can be something when we go
That could
through
absolutely
the
be.
process, we have them sign from surrounding neighbors.
And I seem like, the fire department signed off on it, and police department, fire department, but there's nothing in there about ambulance either. So, I mean,
Well,
I
to
know
be
that's not
fair,
us,
that's,
but
that's
leeway
not
for
a
them
city
to get in.
department.
it's not, but, so that house I'm talking about that's locked in there, need an ambulance, You know, how easy is it gonna be to pull up them roadblocks and get an ambulance in there?
Roadblock.
I think it'd be the same thing as any street closure we do, whether it be, Jingle on Main or anything like that.
No, then we're different. We have ambulance on site for those.
Oh, I thought you were talking about access. You're wanting them to have an ambulance on site?
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that when you're saying those roadblocks, we have ambulances on site. Like down at
guess I'm not-
Celebration of Life
I
and,
thought you were talking about access, like moving a roadblock is what you...
I am for this. I mean, I don't think you need an ambulance on site. I'm not saying that. But access to it.
Yeah, so I think it's a street roadblock, just like, or a street closing structure, just like what we would use downtown.
No, those ones we have ambulances on site.
I guess I
When
don't
we had
understand.
ours, we even had people come back from ball games, from tournaments in the midst of it, and everybody cleared it out of the way. It was just a known. And another gal had family coming in the middle of it, and so we cleared it out of the way and made sure that, everybody was, it was just mutually agreed upon.
But ambulances are timely.
Oh, yeah.
Getting family in and out is, I just a thing I haven't thought of. I wouldn't want to be that person that need an ambulance and you're trying to get people moved out of there. And
I'm not understanding the correlation, but that's just me. There's-
okay, say they block your block off right where you live.
Sure,
So the only way to get to your driveway is in front of your house.
yeah. So they have to move the wood block, the wood barricade to get...
And there's probably parking on both sides with this party.
Which there is normally, right?
And so I'm trying to get an ambulance down through there, or a fire truck, just how easy is it? All that stuff is timely.
A barricade moves very quick.
Yeah, I understand your point. You say that there's an ambulance on site. Well, anybody has to wait for the ambulance to come from the hospital to get to their
Well,
residence.
no, like when you talk about the celebration or the July 4th stuff down there, there's an ambulance down there.
Okay, but they have to move the barricade, right?
No, they're inside there already.
I didn't realize.
Same with the racetrack, there's an ambulance on site. They don't start those races till there's an ambulance there. I don't think that's changed.
As far as I know, there's usually some sort of medical there, but I don't know if there is actually
I don't
an
remember seeing an
ambulance for the parade, Jingle on Main, or any of those events.
Right, I don't remember seeing an
Yeah,
ambulance.
those ones I don't think either, but I know like 4th of July down there, they usually have an ambulance.
So like, it would be the same thing, you just move the.
But if you don't have to if the property owner doesn't have to sign off that, it's okay, then I'm saying they're somewhat locked from it. You ever have an ambulance come to your house and you have to move vehicles? Doesn't happen easy.
I've been there, done it. I know I'm with you. I don't think you're talking about anything here that nobody is. and we
But
have an
that's not-
ambulance that
that's
runs
not in
every
there.
day, multiple times a day that gets through
That's not in here, though.
the streets. Well, we don't have anything right now.
Right,
That's to be determined.
because the process that we use right now is just a special event permit, which also doesn't require that.
Further discussion?
Personally, I think it's a great conversation. We just need to have that when we go to the work session, when we're starting to write the ordinance for how we want that to look.
Sure, almost
That's the
describe like a
type.
fire lane, for instance, to have some sort of access through for emergency vehicles, right? Make sure that would stay clear. That's what you're describing?
Well, at least like I said, they had the property owners be aware of it. They probably are, but there's nothing that says they are.
Yeah, something that we work on, definitely need to take note in the future, that would be something for emergency vehicles. I mean, I would think the fire would have said something as well, because they're gonna go to the same place, their same urgency as any ambulance.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
Or the police department, I would think, would have that same urgency.
I called and talked to both parties, party one and party two. I spoke with both of them this afternoon. And the first party listed, said they talked to the neighbors and everything, and nobody had a problem with it.
But you can say that, it's not in writing.
True.
Any further discussion? Okay, this is just to approve this particular block party, so as opposed to other block parties in the future that we may be doing differently. So, should be a roll call vote then.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next, we move to reports. the PD monthly report, all of you have the calculations and the numbers. Does anybody have any questions with regard to any of those numbers that we can call Dave up to ask him about? Are you okay with?
Any news on the speed cameras?
Mike, you're out of the numbers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is just the monthly report on numbers.
Oh, okay.
Dave would, the police report will come up at a future meeting.
Sure.
Okay? So with regard to the numbers, anybody have any questions with regard to those? Okay.
I do have one question. On the domestic reports, without pulling it up, I think it showed like 24 or not, disturbing the peace, I'm sorry, disturbing the peace. To fall into that category, where do you classify disturbing the peace? Because that's a pretty broad, open area.
And so understand that all of these are classified through the calling system and the records management system through Shieldware, which is our software that we share with the Sheriff's Department through what we pay for. So if you call in and say the neighbor's kids are outside at 10 o'clock at night playing baseball and I want them to stop, that's disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, whatever it is. And understand it's also a subjective with how much information the dispatcher gets. So if the dispatcher gets something that it's not, if she doesn't or he doesn't get the information that's correct, it may fall under that. And so that's how those are done. Ultimately, we end up making the investigation once we get to the scene to try and classify that as whatever it's going to be. So yes, it can be me revving my engine next door to you. It can be me playing loud music, all kinds of things. And it's kind of a catch-all. Could be the neighbors just yelling and screaming, and it doesn't make it necessarily a domestic, but they were yelling and screaming about a baseball game that they were really happy with, something like that.
Okay.
So it's a catch-all on a lot of things.
I was just curious because, that number always seems to be high, so I was just looking at what your definition really fell into play.
And you'll see those numbers rise throughout the summer. More people have their windows open, more people are out and about. So you'll see those type of things rise. During the winter, you'll see them drop a huge number because people have their windows closed. It's cold, nobody hears
Not
it.
outside.
So it's seasonal as much as anything else too. Good question.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, Dave, while you're up here, fraud and counterfeit, you had 3. Basically, what's that come down to?
That could be, one of the main ones would be if I go to a box store and I take a TV, but then I take the sticker or the UPC code off of a tube of toothpaste and I put that on there and then I do a self-checkout and I run that across, that's a fraud. So we also do sometimes get counterfeit bills. Those typically will get caught when the bank runs them through their system and then they'll call us and we put it in. So those are 2 of the most typical ones on that.
Walmart.
Yeah.
I said big box store.
I think it's the only self-checkout we have in town.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Fairway.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next, move to item number 14 under reports. This is the Fire Department monthly report. Anybody have any questions that we can relay with regard to that? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll move then to the Building Department monthly reports. Any questions with regard to any of the reporting with regard to the Building Department?
Have we ever found somebody when there's a long grass that's got to be mowed? Have we ever found anybody that wanted to contract with the city to do that for us?
No, it's one of the things that I talked about last year.
Yeah.
Just never got done, to be perfectly frank.
Does it have to do with the liability part? Is that it?
That's a big part of it. We're yeah.
Storing their equipment.
Okay, then the next would be item 16, which is the ILPT reports. Anybody have any questions with regard to those? Okay, hearing none, then we move to council members.
Nothing, Mayor.
Deb?
Just that we need some cemetery volunteers to clean on Saturday. Our sign out there worked well for a few days. We got a few people. Had to pull the sign, so it worked well because it was right there on site, and they seen the sign and they knew they could clean there. And then don't we have a substance abuse meeting Thursday?
I think so.
That's it.
Okay.
9 10:30, is it?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, thank you.
Ralph, anything?
Nothing.
I've just had a few people ask why we don't live stream our work sessions.
Well, the answer to that is we just have never done it in the past, and I think that well,
We did it as a trial, but,
For about 3 months.
was it that long?
I think it was.
Okay, so we did it for a trial,
we can certainly
But-
talk. Go ahead, Susie, I'm sorry.
but some of the department heads didn't feel they could be as open with council to have just general conversation and kind of throw ideas out without it being misconstrued as this is going to happen. Like, it's gospel, like.
We recently talked about it at a department head meeting, and that was still the consensus among the department heads, was that there was concern that if we live stream the work sessions, that then the general public takes those things as we're moving forward with these projects, when that may not be the case.
And see, what I'm getting is, what are you hiding during the work sessions?
Come to the meeting. and we're-
Yeah,
Yeah, it's open to.
meeting's open to the public.
There's no, it's worth noting too, there's no requirement in Iowa state law
Right.
that we live stream any of the meetings.
Right.
We do out of a desire to be transparent.
Yeah.
And I think it's important too to say that we don't do any voting or have any kind
Right.
of decisions that are made that night, so.
It's just an idea sharing.
Yeah. Informational.
I could see the public's point of view on that too, because that's where, I mean, there's a lot of discussion that occurs during a work session, and then you watch the meeting, and it looks like everybody's just voting yes for something because they don't see the discussion that occurs during the work session piece.
Yeah, that's.
I absolutely can understand that point of view, but I also understand that the department head's concern about, somebody sees something on TV or on a YouTube video, they take it as gospel, and
Right.
then we all have to work, spending time with that rather than what we need to be working on. So,
All right.
But encourage all those people to come and hang out with us.
Once we go at 5:30, they will.
July 1st.
Brian?
Sir, I'm good, thank you, Mayor.
Mike?
I had some questions. I spoke with Matt about it, about water shutoffs. Some of the people that don't have YouTube or any kind of, don't use the computer regularly, And he has a
About
good-
water shutoffs or the trash service?
the water shutoff.
I thought we were talking about the trash service piece.
Well, we did. We talked about trash service.
As far as the updating on the ownership of the water services?
No.
No, he's talking about
when it's shut off, and then how you talk about a text, there's a potential.
Oh, yes, you're talking about water main breaks.
Water
My
main
apologies. Yes, so Susie and I have been talking with our website vendor about that, and they have a product that we could purchase that would allow us to actually draw an area on a map, and if people have signed up for it, it'll send them a text alert and do a better job of notifying those individuals who are impacted by that outage. The other thing that I'm looking at it for that I feel like would be really beneficial is it also allows it so that when Susie does that, it's a single-step process. She does it one time, it automatically posts on Facebook, it automatically posts on the website, it automatically sends the text messages out, and she's only got to go one place to do it. Rather than having several different locations that she, from a process perspective, it severely, I think it'll speed up her process and make it easier for her to do it. So we're looking at it. I need to have a conversation with Travis about it from the funding perspective and make sure that we can afford to do it out of the utility, because it's for utilities, so that's where I would say we would put the cost of it too.
They are good at putting it out there early, though, if they know that
We try to.
tomorrow they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Hear
try
about it
to,
today.
but I also understand if you don't have
Right.
Facebook, you don't have the internet, I get that.
That's why that sign-up text thing works so great.
Yeah, the notify me thing on the website is a really good tool. Because then when Susie does put, or when whoever puts a news release out, it sends them a text if they've signed up to that notify me on the city's website.
However, with what he just said, though, there's a lot of people who don't have Facebook and internet and stuff, so it's not going to do them any good to sign up because they don't have it.
However, they can go to the library and sign up and still get the text
Right.
messages.
And then after they've signed up that way, then
They
the text
can get it
messages on
through
their
the
phone.
library.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And the library, I know Laura has mentioned before that she's willing to help, and the staff over there is willing to help people get that set up if they're interested in it.
Okay.
Then the garbage was my next question.
Yeah, so over the next hopefully about 48 hours, there's going to be more information coming out, especially, the big thing I was waiting on was to figure out what the rates settings was going to be. I've got a page on the city's website that we put together that outlines the entire process. It says when the totes are going to be dropped off, when your last day of service is going to be, when your new service first day is going to be, includes links to the calendar, all the information, everything's on that single one page. That's what I'm going to start publicizing probably in the next tomorrow or Wednesday. Once we get, I've got a little bit of work left to do to update it with the costs that we just talked about tonight, because I want to have it, the intent is for that page to be a single stop, that all the information is right there on that page. So they don't have to go to look in a resolution to figure out what the cost is going to be, or call ILPT or whatever. It's all on that one spot. So, and then we'll start publicizing that on Facebook and stuff. I have a feeling that, I know, Mike, you and I talked earlier too about sending out some sort of notice to all the people who have signed up for trash service. I think that's probably the route we're going to go. Susie and I had talked briefly about potentially trying to include it with ILPT's bill, but I don't know that that's probably going to work, because usually it's very limited on how much you can include with their stuff. I think more than likely what we'll end up doing is we may just send a letter to everybody in town, an actual letter saying, here's what's happening with the trash service, so everybody gets a physical copy of this is what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So
Is a card less expensive than a letter?
a postcard could be less expensive, but we just got to look at that and see what makes the most sense.
Can you get all the information?
You get limited on the postcard too on how much information you can put in there. If we do a letter, we can put a couple different things in there. We could give the trash thing and some of the other stuff that's happened. So we'll look at that and see what makes sense.
Thanks, Matt. Nice
You bet.
work.
Catherine?
Nothing. I'm good, thank you.
Matt?
The trail project that Fred came in and talked about at the last work session was not awarded a grant. So that won't be moving forward. The library had their Oakley project that they were wanting to do around in front of the library. That was also not awarded a grant during this most recent cycle. I don't know if the pieces that are awarded are public yet or not, so I'm going to stop with just the two things I know that were not awarded. Other than that, I think that's everything I've got. I'll be in and out the rest of the week. Wife and kids are out, or wife and daughter's out of town, so I got to take care of the dog and make sure my teenage son takes care of what he's supposed to. So.
Yeah, a couple things real quick. First off, you may have noticed that they've started the framing work over at Mayor's Park for the.
Nice so far.
Yeah.
Don't know how much longer it'll take. The only part of it the city has left to be involved in is coordinating the sidewalks in front of it. So that's coming up. The second thing is I want to thank all the city staff for their work on the citywide cleanup. And the final thing is I want to thank Mitch from Iowa Wall Sawing Service. They actually gave up, they volunteered, and for 2 days they went in there and they used dry ice blast to take off the graffiti from the wall itself. So the only thing the city has to do is prime it and paint it. So we really want to thank them for their help with that.
Absolutely.
And I don't have, Dave, anything?
Yes.
Do you have anything?
Some of you may have noticed I wasn't here last Monday for the work session. That's because I was bowling. And last Monday night, we and not for just fun. It was for the cops, or Guns and Hoses Bowling, and we raised $1,500 to cover delinquent lunch accounts for children within the independent school district. And then we also were able to give some to East Buchanan this year to cover delinquent stuff. We've also got upcoming Cops and Bobbers, and that's where we let kids come out and fish for free with a cop down at the Triangle Park in the city. Big hit last year. We're going to have that again this year. So again, I want to apologize I wasn't here last Monday, but that's where I was doing something that I felt was very important.
When'd you fish it? What day's that? Ways out.
It's on Facebook. It's on our Facebook page. I just put it on today. I left my phone in the back, Deb.
Okay.
So if you send me a text, I won't get it until I get back there. But yeah, it's coming. I think it's July. I want to say around the 14th or something like that. But don't quote me on that because it's been a long day, Deb. Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing that, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Susie?
So speaking of Waste Amnesty Day, the only figures I have is we took in 160 tires and roughly 244 electronic waste items that were charged for.
Wow.
That's all.
It's a pretty good number.
Okay.
That's all I got, so.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting then.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. We stand adjourned.